I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. F it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Yes, it does, Bill. We welcome you in. It's another edition of the Daily Puck Drop. We do it every single day here at 10 a.m., whether you're watching it live or watching it later. Hey, when you're there, please like, subscribe there on YouTube, whatever platform that you like to take in the Daily Puck Drop. We do it every day at 10 a.m. We go for about 90 minutes or so. And then, of course, we podcast everything up later on all the podcast platforms, YouTube, also Apple and Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Of course, we broadcast every single day from the Puck Sports Studios, built, there it is right behind me, built by Limback Lumber. They've got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. Largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service because they've been doing it since 1930. Give Limback Lumber a call, 206-782. I almost forgot the number, 3487. Or visit them online at limbacklumber.com. Of course, you can follow the show on all the social media platforms on Twitter/X, whatever you prefer to call it. Also, Blue Sky, Instagram, Puck Sports, and then on TikTok, Puck_sports, where we put all of our clips after the shows up there. Also, there on Facebook. If anyone still uses Facebook, here's the deal. I don't use Facebook, never have used Facebook. I just put stuff up there. That's about it. Never, ever, ever check it. Also, if you want to listen to the first edition of Dynamic Duos with Graz and Gas, you remember those guys? Two blowhards on the radio back in the day. Were our first guests, or my first guests on Dynamic Duos. You can listen to that if you sign up to be a Pucks Posse member. Hey, by the way, Pucks Posse member, you get all of the content, Daily Puck Drop, everything we do for free for you. The Daily Puck Drop, all of our guests, like our guest today, Danny Kelly from The Ringer, John Canzano from johncanzano.com. We're going to be transitioning in a few weeks to baseball, so that all of our baseball guests are coming back. In addition to that, all that stuff, you get VIP content, exclusive access there at the Pucks Posse community membership. And again, just to sign up, just go to pucksports.com, easiest place to go. Top of the webpage, a link to the Puck Sports community site. Just $5 a month. Look at all the stuff we're giving. We're giving you everything for $5 a month. And then, of course, you get a discount if you sign up for a year. All right, what do we got coming up on the show today? As I mentioned, we've got Danny Kelly from The Ringer. He will stop on by in about 10 minutes from right now, so we'll get the very latest, all things NFL. We'll talk playoffs. We'll talk Jerry Jones. We'll talk Deion Sanders to Dallas. I mean, God, can you just imagine if he lands there? What is ESPN going to do? ESPN is going to explode if Deion Sanders ends up being the head coach there for the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll talk to Danny about that. Offensive coordinator search for the Seahawks. What does he want to see? What does he want to see with Geno Smith? I'll ask him the question we had yesterday, big topic yesterday about DK Metcalf, another high-price wide receiver being knocked out of the playoffs yesterday. Of course, that being, I almost said Richard Jefferson. That would be a hell of a thing if Richard Jefferson was all of a sudden an NFL wide receiver. That would be Justin Jefferson. And another, again, high-priced wide receiver knocked out. So what we talked about yesterday with the Ground Puck Seahawks podcast with Tim Booth and Curtis Crabtree. By the way, that's available on all podcast platforms and up on YouTube. By the way, if you want to go back and check that out and hear what those guys had to say yesterday. It was a great topic brought up by Curtis Crabtree. And listen, Curtis doesn't bring up many great stuff. But he did yesterday. And that's just a jab at Curtis because I love him. About the future of DK. And can you spend a ton of money on a wide receiver in today's NFL? There are examples of that you can't. If you look at who's left in the playoffs, but then there's also examples of, well, they've spent a bunch of money and they're still around. A.J. Brown being one of them. Cooper Kupp doesn't make that type of money, but he's up there. Devontae Smith is up there. Terry McLaurin is kind of up there. So it's not like none of these teams don't spend money on wide receivers, but can you break the bank to be spending money on like top 5 wide receivers? And what's the correlation between spending money on those guys and then the correlation of competing for a Super Bowl championship? So go check it out. We'll talk to Danny about that certainly today. And then John Canzano will stop on by. We got the national championship game next week. Get his thoughts on that one. Carson Beck allegedly making $4 million in an NIL deal with Miami. Reports that maybe it's closer to 3. Regardless, he's making more money than Brock Purdy and Russell Wilson combined. Stupid. This whole NIL world is so dumb right now. But Carson Beck now at Miami. We'll see if he has the same success that Cam Ward that he had this past year with Miami. I mean, Cam Ward, I'm looking at mock drafts. We'll ask Danny about this because Danny does a bunch of draft stuff too, a ton of draft stuff. So Danny will be a part of our draft coverage as well, leading up to the NFL draft. You know, Rob Staten, he does his stuff as well, so Rob will be a part of it as we get closer to the NFL draft. Happy to announce Dane Brugler is back with us from The Athletic. Dane, starting the week after the Super Bowl, will be joining the show once a week to break down. Now, he's not going to be during the live segments, and it is going to be exclusively for Puck's Posse members. So again, $5 a month, 10%. You get a 10% discount if you sign up for a year. Dane Brugler, who I think is just one of the best at breaking down the NFL draft, will start joining us for a weekly visit starting a week after the Super Bowl. Again, will be for Puck's Posse members, and we'll be recording that. It won't be during the live show, but will be just a separate podcast that we will put up once a week. So looking forward to that. Put that on your radar. Dane Brugler joining us the week after the Super Bowl. So we'll talk to John just about back. We'll talk. There's the ongoing lawsuit between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West we'll cover, and a new media rights deal, if that's on the horizon. And, hey, why was Kirk Schulz not at the Jimmy Rogers press conference? We'll find out all that kind of stuff with John coming up at around 10:45. Danny Kelly joining us at 10:15. Before we talk to those guys, let's talk a little. We're going to do it, okay? Just bear with me right now. I don't know where you guys are going to celebrate the championship and where you're going to be on the World Series parade. I'll be there. I don't know about you, but it really cemented it home yesterday when I'm putzing around. I don't even know what I'm doing. I think I might have been at basketball practice for middle school. That's right. This guy coaches middle school basketball. And then I saw the news that they signed Donovan Solano. And that's what I did. I just laughed. I think I have now been resorted as a Mariner fan to just laughing. Just laughing. Because I think the laughter, and I use humor a lot to mask pain and hurt. And that's just, I think, where I'm at right now with this baseball team. Pain and hurt. And now it has just turned into laughter. I sometimes question myself often. Why do I care so much about them? Why? What's the point? The point is that we like pain. We as Mariner fans like to just be hurt every single year. And when I saw that they signed Donovan Solano, and it's okay, fine. He makes contact with the ball. Great. Gets on base. Fantastic. Still strikes out a bunch, by the way. If they want to cut down on strikeouts, still struck out damn near 22% of the time. Their big acquisition so far is a 37-year-old platoon player who plays third base and first base, right? Who's been on like 1,000 teams in his life, who's battled injuries, battled hamstring injuries and knee injuries. And this is there, and he's 5'8", and he looks like me. He's chubby. Okay? This is not what championship teams do. You were sold, we all were sold, this bill of goods by this entire organization, from the front office to the ownership, about how, oh God, I mean, if I had the strength in me and I wanted to do it, and maybe at some point we will, I'll go back and pull all the clips from Jerry DiPoto and this front office telling everyone about how, wait till we get to fill in the blank year. Wait till we get there. Because when we get to 2022, then it was 23, and then it was 24. We've got no restraints whatsoever to spend on this baseball team. We have all the money in the world, and we are going to supplement our guys that we have traded for and drafted with free agent talent. Yet, they haven't done any of it. None of it. And this year is probably, and I'm going to strike this because I bet I said this last year, and I'm sure I did. I thought last year was the most depressing offseason that they had. Well, this so far has completely topped it. I mean, guys, they are less than a month away now from reporting to spring training. Less than a month away. And their two biggest targets this offseason. One, they landed, apparently. I don't even know if Solano was a big target for him. It's just what they got. Their other big target was a 39-year-old, I think he's 39, was 39-year-old Carlos Santana, who Carlos Santana turned them down despite them offering him more money than what Cleveland did. And so now they are stuck with Solano. Okay, a guy that barely played second base, so he doesn't look like he's playing second base. Again, he's going to be a platoon player. So where are you platooning him right now? Are you platooning him at first and third? Like, what are you doing at third then? Is it Dylan Moore at third? Who plays second? Ryan Bliss playing second now, or are we still waiting for a second baseman? Are you platooning him at first? Because I've seen reports now they still are interested in Justin Turner. Okay, so you're going to add a 40-year. So if they add Justin Turner, and I know he was good last year, I know he's positive in the clubhouse and all that, but if you add Justin Turner, so your two big offensive pieces are what? You added a 40-year-old ginger and a 37-year-old chubby infielder. I don't know why you guys aren't lining up to get your playoff tickets. I mean, we should all be lining up to get our playoff tickets. But instead of being so angry, because I know many of you are angry, and you've got every right to be angry. I'm not going to tell you not to be angry. I would just try laughter. Laughter sometimes can be the best medicine, because that's what it's come down to. It's just laughable right now. It's laughable what they are putting together. And again, we are approaching 3 weeks away from when they get down there and those stupid, and I'm going to fall in love with it because Chris Egan or some stupid television station is going to be down there, and they're going to have the same shot every time with the camera on the ground and the cleats hitting the dirt, and I'm going to be like, oh, it's baseball season. And just reminding myself that this team's offseason so far is a chubby 37-year-old infielder that had 8 home runs last year, and you're going to play him at third base. F me, F the whole thing. We'll have more on the Mariners coming up here in a bit. We got to transition. We got to talk a little football. And we talk football every single Tuesday with Danny Kelly from The Ringer. My conversations talking football. As I talk football, we talk Seahawks, we talked fantasy, we'll talk draft with Danny Kelly. My segment brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. And how about this? We got a brand new commercial and intro for my segment from Georgetown Brewery promoting the new Tavern Beer.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
That's right. Go to Georgetown Brewery right now, georgetownbeer.com, and get the new Tavern Beer domestic style lager that's good. And I'm going to tell you right now, Mariner fans, you can drink about 100 of those. You'll be fine, and you will be able to nurse away the issues that you have with your baseball team. Danny Kelly joins us from The Ringer every single Tuesday. We talk football with Danny, senior staff writer at The Ringer, Ringer Fantasy Football Show, The Ringer NFL Draft Show. We'll get into that. And again, our segment is brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. Danny, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, after, I get through the excitement of Donovan Solano.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where you go from there.
Yeah. It was really funny listening to you talk about that just now. The life of a Mariners fan. It's so great. It's just so funny.
It's the worst.
I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to add about that. Yeah. Tell me when I'm supposed to get actually excited, and then I'll do it.
No. I just hold out hope, and just that at some point they sell the team and we just get somebody that cares. God, Can Bezos just buy the team? I mean,
get Mark Cuban. What's he doing?
Fine.
Does he want to do it?
Bezos, like Bezos, my brother-in-law lives in Aspen, Colorado. You know what Bezos, he had his wedding there like a few weeks ago. He reportedly spent like $60 million on his wedding.
Good Lord.
Just on his wedding. Why can't we have him?
Yeah.
Just buy the team. You don't even have to like baseball. It doesn't matter. Just put somebody in charge that likes it and just say, hey, person that I don't know, but whatever, do whatever you want to do. And here's $1 billion.
I think he is the type of guy who's like worries and thinks about what people think of him, right? He wants to be cool.
Well, yeah.
What better way than creating like a winner finally for the Mariners than doing that? I guess he could buy the Seahawks too while we're at it.
That would be the greatest thing. Let me ask you something, because baseball is so different than football, and we'll get into all the storylines here in a second. Would you want the NFL to have no salary cap?
No. I actually think
you like the parity.
Maybe this is not a hot take, but like the reason the NFL is so good is like almost exclusively because of the salary cap. There's also many other things that are great, but manufactured parity in the league, everything the league does. I mean, I don't know the inner mechanisms of baseball really. But from the way that they schedule the teams in the NFL, the way if you win your division, you play a harder schedule. You get the other winning teams in your division, the other division winning teams, I should say. The draft is constructed to create parity, and John Schneider said this a long time ago, and it really stuck with me. It's like the league is designed to push you to 8-8. Basically, the teams that are really, really good either have to draft really, really well or have an elite quarterback. There's just a number of ways for you to do that. But like the parity in this league is always really impressive. And there's always new teams in the playoffs. Like this year is actually not that, not that different in terms of like the number of teams that made the playoffs compared to last year. But like generally speaking, there's like always a handful of new playoff teams. It's just like, I don't know. It's the parity is a huge component of why I like the NFL, and like it would be stupid if like one team can just buy all the best players. Like, tell me how that makes any sense.
Well, if I would say this, they're still owned by the trust, right? Paul Allen was still alive with his money. I'd say yes, please. I'd just like to buy everybody.
Sure.
It'd be great. I think
right.
I do wonder if the league could do. I don't know what they would do. There used to be this thing, and I'm probably going to butcher this, in the NBA called the bird rights. You got to negotiate a different deal for guys that you drafted. And I wonder if they ever get to a point, maybe not so much with guys that you drafted, but with the quarterback position. Quarterbacks are just, they eat up too much money of the cap.
It's like separate from the cap almost.
Yeah, I just wonder if that maybe would be a good thing for the league. Just so you can pay the quarterback whatever you want, and it only counts like
it's like the coach. You don't have a salary cap on your coach.
Yeah, why on the quarterback?
It is an interesting discussion, and I think that there's a lot of things that would happen if that did kind of like get separate from the rest of the salary cap. Like playing young rookie quarterbacks would become much less en vogue, because right now one of the biggest advantages in the NFL is you get a guy on a rookie contract, a quarterback on a rookie contract that's good, and you can pay all these other positions that are really important. Pass rushers, you can go in free agency and add key, guys at different positions because you can afford that. You don't have like a quarterback taking up $50 million of your cap or whatever. So it would change everything, obviously, but I think it'd be really interesting to see kind of like how that would go. But yeah, I think there would be a lot of like, wrinkles and like the butterfly effect. I'm sure there would be a lot of things that people probably don't like about it, but yeah, it would definitely be an interesting component. I think we already see that a little bit with the coach thing. Like, imagine how big of an advantage having a good coach is now.
Sure,
because you don't have to worry about how much he's going for the salary cap.
Right. Yeah, it's
like McVay.
McVay is, I was going to get into that. We're going to get into McVay, the playoffs, and we'll get into the OC search and Deion and Dallas and all that. I just watching that last night and where they were at this year. And the fact is, was it last year, 2 years ago, where he almost stepped away?
Yeah.
From coaching?
He was like tired. He's just like exhausted from coaching.
He's unbelievable.
He's a really good coach.
Unbelievable football coach.
We had this discussion on the fantasy show, the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. Good plug there.
Where do you find that, Danny? On
Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. It's about to change the name to the Ringer NFL Draft Show pretty soon here. We're going to get into the draft. But yeah, we were talking about this on our show the other day, and it's basically like the idea of trading coaches has always been kind of weird to me, but it does happen in the NFL every once in a while. You get a coach traded from one team to another. Sean Payton was a recent one. And I asked Craig, one of my co-hosts, what he would trade. He's a Steelers fan. What would he trade for Sean McVay? And it's like, there's no limit to the amount of like first round picks I would give up to get Sean McVay. It's like, give him 6. I think the most you can give away in a trade is like 3 or something. I don't even know what it is, but I'm like, yeah, like if the Seahawks, this is just example before last year, if they had given up like 3 first round picks for Sean McVay, I don't think I would bat an eye at that. I'd be like, yeah, that let's do it. And so, the hidden value with these coaches, obviously, like the game plan that the Rams had for the Vikings in this last game was pretty incredible. They just absolutely just took Sam Darnold and made him see ghosts essentially the entire game. They took away all the deep developing stuff. They basically they sacked him 9 times. I think that was tied for a playoff record. Just an incredible performance.
Or it was a tie or something the most since 1963.
Yeah, which is ever that in my mind.
Yeah, right. It is forever.
Anything before
people,
like
sorry, old people watching and listening.
Yeah, yeah. Anything before I was born, I'm just like, that doesn't count.
When were you born?
82.
Oh my Lord.
But yeah, I think Sean McVay, I think he's up there in the pantheon of like the best coaches in the NFL. Obviously, that was, I think, clear. It's been clear for a while, but that to me just reinforced it. It's like a teacher schooling his pupil. You know what I mean? Like last night, it was like the Vikings just not have any answers for what they were doing. It was a domination. This is a 14-win team. I don't understand this. This is crazy.
14-2 and out in the wild. I mean, just done
and dominated.
And done.
Yeah,
and obliterated. And then you're right. And then Sam Darnold's a pumpkin again. And now everyone's like, "Hey, Darnold, New York Darnold is back." And now that big and he cost himself money and all that. Now, I tend to agree with O'Connell, what he said yesterday or after the game. Hey, you got to look at the body of the work, not the last 2 games. But it's hard not to, though. It's hard not to look at the last 2 games and go, "My God, is he real or was it make believe with Sam Darnold?"
Right. Well, and I think a lot of teams, I mean, I don't know, the playoffs always like amplify the narratives like 100x. You know what I mean? It's like you have like Lamar coming into this year, like people are doubting Lamar. He's been an MVP 2 times. He's probably going to be a 3rd time MVP. And people are like, you can't win in the playoffs. You can't win with him. Like, you know what I mean? Like
but until he does it, he's never going to shake it.
I know. And I think this is exactly what we're going to see with Darnold. Obviously, Darnold's a whole different level in terms of like how good he is and what he can do for a team. But people are going to be like, look, he might be able to be a pretty good starting quarterback for you in the regular season. But as soon as the bright lights come on, as soon as like the pressure builds, he absolutely crumbled. And I also think like the Vikings just didn't do him any favors last night in that game either. Like, read a great article by Jordan Rodriguez at The Athletic. Basically, the Rams went in there with the idea we're going to take away all their deep developing routes, all their play action stuff, rush with 4, and like 6 out of 9 of Darnold's sacks last night was after like 4.5 seconds. It was like he didn't have any answers. He didn't have any underneath stuff. He didn't have any quick game stuff. And so I think
fire. You know what I would say? Fire Ryan Grubb.
There you go. Couldn't run the ball. So I don't know. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what they do with Darnold. I think right now it's probably still most likely they franchise tag him. And then depending on where McCarthy is at this time or in the preseason next year, like if they feel really good about McCarthy, they can trade him, possibly like a tag and trade, something like that, because they can't just let him go for free. I feel like at this point.
No. And then whatever because there's still an uncertainty probably about McCarthy.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is a 14-win team. Are you going to start from not scratch, but basically scratch with a new quarterback next year after you had so much success with this quarterback that they have right now? Then again, of course, all the playoff stuff kind of erases a lot of that, makes it a little bit easier to move on if they do want to do that. I think that's the plan probably, is to eventually move on, not trade McCarthy. I know we were talking about that last week. I doubt they'll do that at this point. But yeah, super interesting. This is going to be one of those storylines I really want to watch the most in the offseason, honestly.
Yeah, and the Rams, we'll get into the games coming a little bit, but you got to love the Rams. I love the Rams getting damn near a touchdown on the road there against Philadelphia. I was just looking this up as we were talking about trades. So in the past 25 years, there have been 7 deals involving coaches. So the latest one was Sean Payton. Saints to the Broncos. They got a first-round pick and a second-round pick. Broncos also
second, yeah.
Broncos also got a third-rounder. And then how about this? Brucey Ball. Arians was a trade.
Really?
From the Cardinals to the Buccaneers for a 6th-round pick.
Oh, that's funny.
Herm Edwards from the Jets to the Chiefs was a 4th-round pick. John Gruden.
Oh, yeah. That was the Raiders-Bucks trade.
And this was a haul.
Yeah.
A haul. This is probably, I think the biggest one. This is the one McVay would top this. 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and $8 million.
Wow. And that was like in 2001 or something. That was like, add in inflation, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And then they won the Super Bowl. So it turned out to be a good trade, I guess.
Let's see. Belichick from the Jets to the Patriots was a 1st, a 4th, and a 7th rounder.
There's almost always a first rounder involved.
A lot of first rounders. And I didn't know that. I don't remember this, but Holmgren was a trade.
Was he?
From the Packers. From the Packers, a 2nd-round pick.
Well, I don't remember that at all. That's interesting.
No, I don't. I don't recall that at all. That was a trade. And Bill Parcells from the Patriots to the Jets was a 1st, a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th, and $300,000.
Damn. Oh, $300,000.
What do you think McVay would get?
3 firsts at the very minimum. I think 3 firsts is where you start talking, and then you probably add in players or something like that. It would be absolutely massive. I mean, just think about like the advantage that he brings. Of course, I think you have to give Snead some credit here too, because he's done an incredible job with that roster, like rebuilding on the fly, using basically 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th-round picks. They didn't have a 1st-round pick for like, what was it, like 6 or 7 straight years? 7
remember,
straight years.
And everyone was killing them. Oh, their run is over. It's done. Don't want to be them. And here they are again. They're one win away from getting to the 2 wins away from getting the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think obviously you get players for those first rounders, so that's a part of their roster too. But like, they've done an incredible job, and it's like as a Seahawks fan, it's especially frustrating because like he did this on the fly in a couple of years. Like Aaron Donald retired and he rebuilt the defensive line. He rebuilt like their defense entirely using just like mid-round picks. It's like, man, when are we going to get some freaking guys in the draft? I know that like this last draft is promising, whatever. Like, there's been some guys over the last couple of years that are definitely really promising, but like just the speed at which Snead has done this year over year and basically like remade the roster every year. It's been really, really impressive. Of course, you have to give credit to both of them. It's like working together. Sean McVay, Les Snead, identifying guys and then plugging them into their scheme. That's kind of like the dream, right? That's like exactly how you become a consistent like championship caliber team, as John Schneider always says.
We have Barge of the Week coming up at the end of the segment. I'm gonna introduce something new too as well. A new feature. It's titled "Say What."
Okay.
So I'm gonna play something for you later. It's in regards, not really totally into Deion, but it's Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy. What do you think? There's not enough lotion in Bristol, Connecticut for ESPN
right.
for Deion Sanders to land in Dallas. My God, if that happens, it is going to be 24/7.
Yes.
Deion and the Cowboys. I won't be able to watch it anymore. I got to turn it off.
I can barely watch it now.
Oh my God.
That would be interesting. I don't understand. Look, I don't understand exactly what the plan would be there. Like if Deion goes to Dallas, are they going to then try and force somehow a way to get Shedeur to Dallas? It always felt like Deion and Shedeur sort of like a package deal, and which is why it makes more sense to me that he would go to somewhere like Las Vegas. But
he said it last week when he did that interview with, I think it was Barstool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did he say that it was a package deal essentially?
He said the only way that I would really entertain an NFL job is if I could coach my sons.
Yeah.
Which I find the irony in this is because he just did his first like team meeting with his new team. Well, with Colorado, new players and getting ready for spring ball. And he said, I saw it from like the Buffalo's Twitter account.
Yeah.
Where he said, I'm really looking forward to this year because this is the first year that I don't get to coach my sons. So I'm not a coach and a dad. I'm just a coach, and that's refreshing.
Right. Sure.
But then he goes on, he's like, well, the only way I would ever go to the NFL is if I can coach my sons. Because Dallas is down. They're like, 12, 13? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Let me pull it up. But yeah, they're not like they don't seem to be in range to get Shedeur, and also Dak just has this massive contract.
Right.
Dallas is 12th. I mean, I guess it's not like that far down the list that it's like impossible, but
I think he's doing it. I think that whole Dallas thing, maybe he does want to coach there. I don't know. I mean, it would fit him, big personalities and all that. But I wonder if it's like to put more pressure on the Raiders, right? He said that he likes the Raiders, but then I think there was a story that came out, well, the Raiders really aren't that interested in him. Who knows? I mean,
it's it's gonna be a circus, whatever. I also just thought it would be kind of weird to have Sanders go to the Cowboys. Just because the coach typically in Dallas is such like a figurehead type of person, it's like he's not really in charge. Jerry's in charge. Jerry's family's in charge, and you're just kind of there to steward the ship or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you're not actually making decisions. And so, is that what Deion wants? I feel like that's the opposite of kind of what he's looking for. But maybe he just like wants to go back to his old.
Maybe
team.
He thinks he can be the one that can knock on the door.
Yeah.
And say, hey, landman actor.
Maybe he can like actually exert some influence over Jerry Jones because of his like fame and
the best thing that Jerry Jones could do, if I mean, it would just pick up the phone to Belichick and be like, what do you want to do? You want to come back?
Yeah.
Because we'll just, I don't know what we'll do in the meantime. Why don't you shadow coach the team? We'll do back channels for the draft, and then June 2nd hits, and you can come be the coach.
So they would have to buy him out from North Carolina, right?
Not if it's $1 million though. Before,
that's right.
First of all, before it's $10 million, I think. So he can easily afford $10 million buyout, Jones. But after June 1st, it's
That was the weird little wrinkle that we saw with the contract, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just
People
like,
noticed
I'm
that right away.
Holding out like the option of coming back to the NFL if the right situation kind of comes along.
Well, what about a trade? Do you think because there's been talk of trades in the NFL with two guys in particular. Mike Tomlin's name has been thrown out there. Potentially, maybe Pittsburgh would move on and trade him.
Yeah.
Even Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings. That's been a talk out there.
Well, yeah, that's been a talk. Like there's going to be teams calling the Vikings. I can't see the Vikings trading him in any circumstance.
Yeah, why? God, you just went 14-2. And
I think people will be like, hey, what can we give you? And then the Vikings would be like, how about 7 first-round picks?
What about Pete? Come on, Pete and Dallas. Hey, Jerry, woo, Jerry, I got some great ideas, Jerry, tell me, come on.
I think no.
We're gonna win every day, win forever, Jerry. Come on.
My impression is based on reading Pete's book, Win Forever. He probably would avoid going to a place like that where you have the coach and the GM, the owner and the GM sort of like in cahoots working potentially against you. He would probably want to be like in charge of everything like he was in Seattle. And I think he like attributes a lot of the reasons he failed in New England and New York to just not really seeing eye to eye with the ownership or the GM at the time. And basically just, that was like a huge reason that it didn't work out. So I doubt it. I don't know if I asked your opinion on this. What do you think of Pete coming back? Do you think the Bears should hire him?
In a heartbeat.
I am rooting for it so hard. I want to see him too. It's like I don't know what it is. It's just it's like your dad coming back or something. I don't know. I really want to see him in the league. I think he'd be really good for Caleb Williams and the Bears in general. I think like, I really hope they hire him. I don't know. Like they've interviewed about like 30 guys now. So I don't know.
Everybody. And they do the whole NIL thing where they put up the picture, interview finished. With that being said, we're not hiring anyone yet.
So I don't know. I think either Carroll will end up back in Las Vegas where they don't have a GM right now. And he could hire the GM. Or Chicago, I guess maybe it goes against what I just said, where he's like going to be working for Ryan Poles, but maybe there's a situation where he has like final say over the roster or something like that he can finagle from them. Because I don't think, Poles, I think sort of survived, but isn't necessarily like super secure there. And so, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I could see him in either Las Vegas. I know they interviewed him in Las Vegas. God, it'd be ironic if Tom Brady hired Pete Carroll, huh?
Yeah. Well,
It'd be kind of weird.
I think Pete, I wouldn't be. Would you be shocked if Tom Brady just elevates himself to be the GM and run everything?
No. No, but then, okay. Are we finally drawing the line that he has to step out of the announcement?
Well, I think at that point, I don't think he can call games anymore. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to watch him anymore because the plastic surgery, he's drooping on one side. I don't want to see it anymore. Okay. I'm tired of it. That was a bad job. Whoever did that surgery on him, bad job. Hey, so speaking of Dallas, real quick, here's a new segment I want to start. I don't know how regular this is going to be. Say what? Say what?
Say what?
Okay. So this is what it's going to be. This is what coaches, players would actually say if they were given a truth serum, okay? This is Jerry Jones talking about why he fired Mike McCarthy. Hopefully you haven't seen this yet.
Fired Mike McCarthy because he looks like a fucking pork chop. And I hate that big-ass play call sheet he holds during games. We all know it's a Perkins menu. I'm not even sure we need a coach. Hell, maybe we already have a coach in mind. Maybe he's sitting right in front of you, half drunk on Johnny Walker Blue with only an Egg McMuffin in his belly and a pocket full of Dinger pills. Maybe he's 82 fucking years old and needs his ass wiped from time to time, depending on how much Salisbury steak he's ate. Look, I'm going to do things my way, and my way is fucking terrible. But if you don't like it, then tough titty said the kitty, but the milk kept coming. Listen, I'm never going to die, motherfuckers. I drink 8 ounces of hog's blood every day, and I'm a vampire feeding off mass disappointment. So learn how to accept meaningless primetime games forever. What I'm looking for in our next head coach is someone that values analytics and also someone that lets me take he and his wife to a Hojo's and sit in the cuck chair.
Oh, my God.
That is from the very, very talented DNP Sports Burner on X. Please give him a follow. He does a lot of these videos. He did one with Steve Sarkisian.
People fall for these too, which is
a lot of people fall for him. But this guy is funny as hell. Again, DNP Sports Burner on X. I can't get enough of these, and that one is the best one that he has done.
Drink hog's blood. I drink 8 ounces of hog's blood every day. I'm a vampire feeding on.
It's not a play. It's not a play sheet. It's a Perkins menu.
Oh God.
Okay, for those who are watching and listening, that is fake.
Mm-hmm.
It's fake.
AI is good for something.
AI is good. That is fake. That is not the real Jerry Jones. All right, let's. God, I've watched it so many times. I just pee myself.
I like how he taps the guy next to him. the
so
mannerisms are spot on. I don't know how they did that, but
that's what I say. What I think that's what Jerry Jones would really say if he actually could speak truthfully about getting rid of.
We're doing it my way, and my way's the fucking worst.
Yeah, right. All right, let's. I want to quickly go through the games. Let's go Saturday. Chiefs favored by 7.5 over the Texans. What do you think in that game? I mean, just Chiefs going to roll? The Texans have a shot at all?
Yeah. I picked the Chargers strongly last week, and the Texans let me down.
Solid.
So I'm not going to necessarily, write the Texans off quite yet, but I do think the Chiefs, being at home, their defense is really good. Their offense is really coming together. Their receiving core is much better. I'm going to go with the Chiefs in that one.
Yeah.
But I do think the Texans will make it a game. I was very impressed with their defense in this last game.
Sure. They were really good. 4 picks, and Herbert had 2 or 3 in the season.
Yeah, he had. I think he had 3 all season, and then 4 picks in this game.
And then 4.
He had one of the lowest interception rates of any quarterback in NFL history. Based on, I looked it up. It was since 2000 or something. It's second or third lowest,
Incredible.
Less than 1%. So yeah.
Commanders are going to go on the road, take on Detroit. They're the largest underdog of the weekend.
Yeah.
The Commanders get 9 against Detroit. Should Detroit be worried about Jaden Daniels?
Yes. This is great because it's 2 teams that are just don't give a fuck and go for it on 4th down at all times in any situation. 4th and 8, sure, run a draw. You know what I mean? They just do not care, which I love. This is gonna be the vibes game of the year in terms of just the coolest teams, the most fun teams. The obviously the Lions I think are kind of America's team right now. Everybody wants the Lions to win. I'll just say Commanders cover in this one. I think the Lions are the better team clearly, but I think with Jane Daniels, they really do kind of feel like the team of destiny. The way that they've won so many games late this year, I think I saw Jane Daniels has the most game-winning drives of any rookie quarterback.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the stat was, but it's in a really long time. He's just been incredible. So I don't want to count him out, but the Lions are, they're just a buzzsaw. So it's gonna be tough for the Commanders.
Rams, I love the Rams against the Eagles. I really do. I love the getting 6 against them, and then I really just like the Rams outright against the Eagles.
Yeah, I bet on the Vikings last night, and then or earlier in the week. And now I'm in retrospect, I'm why would I bet against Matt Stafford against Sam Darnold? That just is idiotic. In this game, especially the way that Jalen Hurts played in this last game, they really couldn't get their offense going at all. I like the Rams too, actually. I think in this game, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. I think the Eagles, obviously they can control the game with their defense and their run game, but I don't know if Hurts is gonna be able to throw much.
Right. Yeah, well, they didn't look good last week, and then we can get to AJ Brown just quickly in a second because I think he's going to be our first repeat visitor on the barge there for AJ Brown. Ravens Bills, it's the NFL MVP matchup.
Yeah,
Josh Allen against Lamar Jackson. You can only have one. Who's it going to be? Bills are dogs in this game at home.
Are they?
Baltimore's favored by 1. I want
to say they opened as favorites, but I could be wrong.
I think they did, and now it's Baltimore by 1.
It's moved. I'm going with the Ravens. I picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl, and I'm sticking with that take.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't think they had it. They didn't give me any reason to sort of back off of it after last week. I think the Bills were very dominant over that Broncos team. They ran the hell out of the ball. This is going to be a really fun game, obviously. Game of the year. but got to go with Lamar. I think Lamar's going to win the MVP too. So I don't know. This is going to be a good one.
I want to see him win it. My son and I love Lamar Jackson. I love him, and I like stories because I think he's a good guy. He's an ultimate competitor. I don't think he's a me first guy. I think he's a team guy. He's got a good smile. I'm a big fan of his. All right,
I love him, dude. Yeah,
and I just the narrative on him that he can't win the big one and he can't do this, he can't do that. I just want to see him knock it off. I want to see him knock it off and win the whole thing. And I think they can, and obviously Derrick Henry is going to play a huge part in that. All right, Barge of the week. There it is, the Barge. Yeah, I know it's a shipping container. Okay, we get it, but it's the Barge sound. I mean, he's going to be the first repeat guy. You got to put AJ Brown on the Barge.
Oh, for reading the
Come on, he's reading a book. Jalen Hurts said after the game, I've never seen him do that before. Now Brown's saying, I do it all the time. Well,
I know.
Really?
I feel like somebody would have caught this before if he's reading on the sideline. That is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like receivers, different breed. Receivers are just a bunch of crazy people, I love it. It would have been really funny if that had been like Little Women or some like random novel or something. You know what I mean? Like,
isn't it number one?
Yeah, it went number one overnight. It was like essentially Inner Excellence, I believe the name of the book was.
Yeah.
It was like a confidence book. It reminded me of how Pete Carroll loves the inner game of tennis. I think it's like the same concepts of like, pushing out the noise, playing in the absence of fear, all that stuff.
What do you think, Dan? He makes a ton of money. And again, he's an excellent football player. Almar and St. Brown makes a ton of money as well. We got in this a little bit yesterday. I'm just curious on your thoughts. DK Metcalf's in line to get paid a lot of money. Is it wise to pay a wide receiver a ton of money? Because the correlation to winning the Super Bowl and paying a wide receiver a ton of money, it's not there. Like we went back and looked like the last 8 years and just you can't find one.
That's a tough question. I would have to think about that a lot. I think I personally think it. So like, look, it's if you look at the Super Bowl winners over the last like 10 or 15, 20 years, it's like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes,
a lot of good quarterbacks,
right? The great quarterbacks, and then throw in a handful of other guys. So my opinion on it is a little nuanced, I guess. But if you don't have a great quarterback, yes, you should pay receivers because they elevate your quarterback. And obviously if you have an elite quarterback, a guy like Patrick Mahomes, a guy like Tom Brady, Roethlisberger, whoever it might be, the guys that have won multiple Super Bowls in the last, in this century, you can get away with not having elite receivers because those guys are so much better and they elevate everyone around them. If you do not have that guy, then you need players to elevate them. And if you look at some of the best offenses in the NFL this year, and in recent years, its teams have two really good receivers. It's the Eagles with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. But
it's weird though. But what's the strength of their team?
I mean, it is running for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Barkley's the reason where they're at right now.
Yeah, but if they're one dimensional, they're not as good of a team.
Right.
You can't be one dimensional in the NFL.
Can you get away though? And we just and I'm just curious. Can you get away with more of a money ball approach to the wide receivers now, especially with all the talent that's coming out?
Maybe. I mean, it's definitely possible. I think it's one of those things where it's like, yes, you could draft a guy, but then you have to draft him, and then you probably need two guys, and then you have to find the right guy. And I don't know. I think it's like it's one of those things where, like, in a perfect world, yes, you probably could moneyball it, and it is possible. But in reality, it's not always the easiest thing to do. And there's only a handful of guys that are, I think, true difference makers in every draft. So you have to be able to get them. And a lot of these guys are going top 10, top 15 nowadays. And so you have to be pretty high in the draft to get that guy. So I don't know. There's just a lot of variables. I think at the end of the day, like I'll stick with my answer of like, if you don't have an elite quarterback, a guy who can like carry and drag your team to the Super Bowl, then yes, it is worth investing in top end receivers because those guys are going to change the way that defense plays you.
Danny Kelly from The Ringer, senior staff writer. Check out The Ringer Fantasy Football Show, The Ringer NFL Draft Show. We'll get more into the draft, I think, next week. So we're going to go over quarterbacks and offensive linemen and all that. Yeah. It's all brought to you by our segment brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated. Check out their new Tavern Beer, domestic style local lager. Visit georgetownbeer.com to find out where you can find your favorite tavern beer, your local watering hole. Thanks, Danny. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thank you.
There he is, Danny Kelly. All right, we've got to transition now to a little college football. And joining us right now, the handsome, the talented, debonair John Canzano, johncanzano.com, all courtesy of Zeke's Pizza, zekespizza.com. My apologies. I'll take people behind the curtain.
It's okay.
I texted John. I said, hey, are you there? I don't see you. Usually you pop on like a few minutes before 10:45, and you're like, yeah, I'm here, you idiot. I realized in the green room I didn't have it like all the way scrolled up. I couldn't see you. So you know what user error, E1.
I was wondering why you kept asking questions. I was like, he must, because I've been there. I've been there. Yeah, you know, I've been there, and wondering why that wasn't a thing.
My fault. My fault entirely. All right, Zeke'sPizza.com brings you John every single week. His time is valuable, so I'll stop screwing around. JohnCanzano.com is the website to go read all of his fabulous work. Radio show, The Bald-Faced Truth down there in Portland, Oregon, 750 The Game. And, of course, follow John on X, John Canzano, BFT, on Blue Sky at John Canzano. All right, well, we got a lot to cover.
Yeah.
You're going to be at the national championship game, correct?
Correct. I'll be there.
This is going to be – what do you think the ratings for this thing is going to be? You got two blue bloods, like Mount Rushmore football programs playing in this thing.
Yeah, and look, it's not going head-to-head with NFL games like some of the other semifinals were, and you don't have some of the small market teams like Boise State being in that opening round New Year's Eve game. This is Monday night. It's the whole stage. It's Ohio State. I think on the downside, I think most of us expect Ohio State to continue to play well and win this game. And if they do, there could be a lot of TVs that turn off during the game. But I think Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, like, they've earned their way there. And, we all should note neither one of these teams would have been in a 4-team playoff. They wouldn't have made it. We said it for years with the NFL. We pointed at the Chiefs last year. Oh, they were in the wild card round, and look, they got there, and nobody disputes it. So college football finally getting with it. And of course, the SEC panicking because 2 years in a row, they don't have a team in the championship game. But, you got to earn your way there now.
It's great. I just think it's weird with Notre Dame. I think the majority of the country despises them, right? Because what's the joke with Notre Dame fans? They're also Duke fans, they're Cowboy fans, they're Laker fans. Marcus Freeman has made them a fabulous story. I think has made them likable. Everyone's kind of talked about this the last week or two, but he has made them likable.
Especially when you compare them to Ohio State and the money that Ohio State's spending. Now, I covered Notre Dame as a beat reporter in 1998, 1999. Bob Davie was the coach at the time. They went to a Gator Bowl that year. What shocked me, being a guy who was like a West Coast guy who was in the Midwest, in South Bend, Indiana, really for the first time, and seeing the Notre Dame fan base, was that it wasn't the typical affluent West Coast Notre Dame fan. This was a Rudy, blue collar, wearing gloves to the stadium with the fingers cut off. The fans of Notre Dame football are very different. The fans who tailgate and show up. It was a little shocking to me because I was used to the Notre Dame fan who had never been to a Notre Dame game, didn't know anything about Notre Dame, and just loved the colors and Lou Holtz and Tim Brown. So it was really eye-opening to see that blue-collar Midwestern fan who was in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, you've been there. I mean, South Bend is not like a destination place where you want to live.
No, it's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful, and Touchdown Jesus as advertised. But
great.
I just remember being in the press box the very first time that I was covering a game, and I looked down at the fans, and it wasn't who I thought it was. I thought it was going to be like the 49er fans, right, with the tablecloths that are cloth in the parking lot, tailgating and drinking wine and eating cheese. It wasn't. It was this real blue-collar, bratwurst, gloves and beanie caps crowd.
They are heavy favorites. I mean, Ohio State is big-time favorites in this one. How does Notre Dame, you think, you pull off the upset?
You got to stop them at the line of scrimmage. The back end has to be really good. Oregon found that out as Ohio State went down the field. You got to make Will Howard uncomfortable. But I think the ultimate thing for Notre Dame is it's got to play clean. You cannot make mistakes. You cannot turn the ball over. Can't do what Texas did as it was driving in to potentially tie the game. And then it's going to need a turnover or two itself. The Notre Dame team, the problem that they have on the offensive side is that they're kind of limited. They don't really throw the ball down the field. What they did against Texas was really a surprise. They want to get in a tug of war with you. And so, they can't let Ohio State run away from them. And look at Ohio State since about week 4 of the season. It's like they give up 14 points, 17 points, 10 points, 7 points. Texas got 14 on them. Oregon getting above 20 was a real outlier. But we all know that was kind of against some third and fourth string guys late in the game. So, Notre Dame's got to get to 20 points in this game, and it has to play clean.
Changes that you'd like to see. You talked about this. Someone asked you in your Monday mailbag, if you were the commissioner or you could run college football, how would you change it? So we've seen this first year of it.
Yeah.
There's been some pros and some cons, obviously. But looking at it, how would you change it in the future?
Well, I'll tell you what I would do, and then I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. So what I would do is I would follow Division II, FCS. I would look at what they're doing. They're having great success having the higher seeded team host the games all the way to the championship game in Frisco, Texas, home seed, high seed. So I would go to 16, and I would say no buys for anybody. Conference champions, top 5 highest rate top conference champions get in the tournament, but it doesn't get you a bye. It doesn't impact seeding. It just gets you a berth to the dance like the NCAA tournament. So I would go 1 to 16, and I would eliminate the quarterfinal neutral site, eliminate the semifinal neutral site. I'd go home field throughout. It's asking too much of fans to tell them to go on the road, go to the Cotton Bowl, go to the Rose Bowl, now go to the championship game. It's just too much to ask from fans, but they'll never do it, right? And I would seed the teams just 1 through 16. The top seed being the team that the committee thinks should get there. And here's what I would have the committee be. It would be all recently retired head football coaches. Let's get the bureaucrats out of the room. Let's get the ADs out of the room. They all have dogs in the fight. Football coaches know good football. Let's have them be the selection committee. I would bring in a rep from all 16 teams after they've picked the 16, and I'd say, okay, make your case for where you should be seated. Everybody gets 5 minutes to talk about their team, just like the Hall of Fame induction ceremony process where, hey, Joe Montana, and then you sit down. Like you could do that with Oregon and Ohio State and SMU. Could have done that, and I think it would have been a really clean process. No week-to-week rankings. Get rid of the pandering every week for 2 months. It was obnoxious. I was vomiting watching the SEC and everybody pander for positions. That's what I would do. But I'll tell you, Puck, what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to do very little in 2025. They need a unanimous vote to make changes in 2025. So I talked to Greg Byrne, the Alabama AD. He thinks they can get some unanimous thought on seeding because everybody kind of looked at the seeding and said, hey, it's wrong. It's not benefiting the top seed. There's a real disadvantage here for Oregon. Ohio State and Notre Dame were both underseeded teams. Interesting that they got to the final. They had, an easier path than some others. But I think you look at seeding for 2025, I think they may adjust that and tweak that. Beyond that, the Big Ten and the SEC think they have unilateral authority in 2026 to make changes. They've said it. Hey, we think we're the gatekeeper here. So if the Big Ten and the SEC are going to make changes, I would expect they're going to try to push for automatic berths for their members. The SEC wants more teams in. The Big Ten's going to want more teams in. I think this is horrible. I think, you should get your conference champ should get in and that's it. But I think that's what they'll push for.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you're going to devalue the regular season, right?
100%.
I mean, yeah, and it's going to be really interesting. So you think so next year that remains the same, but 26, right? Then they can open it back up to make some real changes.
Yeah, because they can make changes for 25, but you need the group of 5 schools to say, okay, we're okay with that. So I expect it to be little things, little tweaks in 25. Maybe some bigger things, some bigger concepts in 2026 and beyond.
And like Boise State, like the Mountain West, not going to go along with that.
No,
like
we're
getting an automatic bid. So why would we change
it? Because you don't want to give up the automatic bids. But I think for 25, what they could do is they could say, hey, look, the seeding benefited nobody. Let's just seed them as they were.
Agreed.
Boise State still would have been a high seed, right? They were still up there in the poll in the rankings. Like, so let's just seed them 1 through 12 and not have this top 4, thing for conference champions. And, I think some schools would go along with that because I think, they might want to have home games instead of others. And nobody's going to want to be the 1 seed in 2025. I can tell you that.
I agree with the getting it out of the neutral sites. It's terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't, nobody else does it this way. I don't know why. And I was watching the Montana State and the North Dakota State game, and they just, to your point, they just do it so right.
Yeah.
And it's such an easy thing to copy because they've been doing it for so long. And it just benefits the teams that are the higher seed. Reward them. Every level of football does it this way, except the one that's the second most popular. And as you wrote in your mailbag, and I'm all in, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, road to the Rose Bowl. You play every year in the Rose Bowl.
Trademark it.
Yes, it's perfect. It's an absolute
make the
perfect
Rose
solution.
Bowl. You would trump the Super Bowl in that way because you know how they float the Super Bowl around to reward teams. Like you could become like Omaha for the College World Series in baseball. You could create this festival around Pasadena, and the Rose Bowl doesn't have to happen on January 1. You could hold another bowl game and call it the Rose Bowl on January 1 if you need a game. But you could hold this game on January 10th or 12th or whenever you need to hold it. That's your national title game, and it happens at the Rose Bowl. So I think they got to get rid of all of it. These bowl games are just meaningless to me. I can't stand them. They're so stupid. And even the ones that they're propping up there for like the quarterfinals and the semifinals. Oh, we won the Peach Bowl. No, you didn't. Yeah. I mean, that's not what you want to win, though. You don't want to win the Peach Bowl. You want to win the whole thing. I think you touched on it there, but I would just do what the NCAA does. Okay, there's one bracket that's just the playoffs. Where no more bowl games. You end up, the road to the Rose Bowl, and then the teams that didn't get in, it's NIT. Just play an NIT tournament. Well, I've heard that's been raised. Like, one of the pro-union organizations that's repping some athletes has come out and said, let the bowl season be the NIT tournament.
Sure.
Create the next group of, the teams 13 through 25 or 13 through 24 or whatever you need to have them play off and play in the Vegas Bowl and the Alamo Bowl and everything else and incentivize it by paying the players like the NBA did for their in-season tournament.
Great idea. Love it. I'm in. All in.
Maybe some of them would play.
Maybe so. Yeah, exactly right. Maybe you can get people stopped from
opting
out.
Here's the other thing. Those bowls that were really not great from a competitive standpoint, they still drew numbers. People like you and I were around in December watching these bowl games because what are we going to do? Watch pickleball? I mean, this was it drew numbers. ESPN got numbers there. They're not going to want to give them up.
I get it. I know. Yep. TV kind of runs everything. All right, where are we at with what's the latest with the Pac-12 Mountain West lawsuit? Where do we stand right now, John?
Well, the Pac-12 filed the lawsuit, basically alleging that the $55 million in poaching penalties was anti-competitive and illegal, and that they signed that agreement under a lot of, coercion and duress. They weren't going to have a season if they didn't agree to the scheduling. And so the Pac-12 is really trying to unwind those poaching fees. Mountain West filed a motion to dismiss. The Pac-12 filed yesterday another motion, their response to that motion to dismiss. The judge in the District Court in Northern California is supposed to look at this and rule. I had legal experts look at it. They believe that the judge is going to let this lawsuit continue and have discovery take place. They just don't think the Mountain West did enough to sort of combat it. But, wrapped up in this is that the Mountain West is using the idea or the concept of these poaching penalties to hold its conference together. It's got financial promises to UNLV and Air Force and all the other members that are based on the revenue from the poaching penalties and the revenue from exit fees. The Pac-12's legal argument is, we signed it, but we signed it under duress. And oh, by the way, it's illegal. And you are double dipping by collecting an exit fee and a poaching penalty. All of the departing Mountain West schools, interestingly, have also filed lawsuits against the Mountain West. They're really putting high velocity legal attack on the Mountain West here. And they're really trying to force them into a settlement position where it weakens them to the point where they may not be able to hold Air Force and UNLV in the conference. So keep an eye on that.
So that's the end game, because they basically they want to force the Mountain West not to be able to collect those fees. If they don't then collect those fees, then they can't promise the guarantee money that they did to UNLV and Air Force, and then thus those two schools probably join the Pac-12.
And those two schools are getting 50%. And so what the Pac-12 could theoretically do is say, look, if they can either negotiate down the poaching fees in a settlement or evaporate them altogether, they could turn to UNLV and Air Force and go, hey, you can still get the money, but you do it by moving to our conference. There also is a question, though, Puck, of whether or not the Pac-12 even needs an eighth member. I've been talking to people about that. The NCAA says you need 8 all-sports members. The Pac-12's at 7 plus Gonzaga. Now, who came up with the number 8? And does it still work in 2025 where some conferences have 16 members or 18 members? What is a conference anymore? And so I do think that one of the angles the Pac-12 could take while they wait for this lawsuit to unwind is they could go to the NCAA and go, look, we don't want to take you to court, but give us an extension. Give us another year to get to 8. Let us play as a 7 plus Gonzaga for a year or two. Look the other way. Let it go. Or they could take some legal action. The NCAA has not been strong in court, as we know. They lose and lose. They're bad. And so, if you take the NCAA to court and say, hey, who says there needs to be 8 members to be a conference? Why not 7 plus Gonzaga? Why does it have to be all sports? I think there's some wiggle room here for the Pac-12 if they want to explore it.
I mean, the other conferences, though, that would argue, oh, my God, we're playing in a 14, 16-team conference. You're playing in a 7-team conference, but yet you have an easier path to the playoff. You don't have to play that many people.
And that may be, that's an incentive for maybe some of those members in those other conferences to reconsider where they are. I'm sure there's some of that going on, Puck, as you look around. Like, they're not playing each other. They should probably just be divided into divisions. They're too big.
Right. Yeah.
And at some point, I talked to Mike Oresco, who's the former American commissioner, about this months ago. He said at some point you grow so big that you can't really communicate. You can't really make decisions. Once you start pushing towards 18 or 20, you're almost too big to get anything really done because there's so many views and voices in the room.
I want to go back to the lawsuit for a sec. When they signed, though, and to have this scheduling agreement with the Mountain West, I mean, they did agree not to take their teams. I mean, they did take them. I mean, isn't the Pac-12 guilty of what they're being alleged to have done by the Mountain West?
Well, the Pac-12 is saying we had no choice. We have thousands of athletes whose competition and athletic careers depended on us putting a schedule together. We signed this expressing that they believed it was illegal at the time. There was some conversation with the Mountain West at the time about whether or not it was even legal. I think the Pac-12, when it signed it, completely intended to try to wiggle out of it or negotiate out of it. But part of the argument is that it's not just anti-competitive for the Pac-12, but that it's also anti-competitive for schools like Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Utah State, who departed because the schools were asked to pay exit fees and then now are facing a marketplace that has been inhibited by the poaching penalties. And so there's like a Sherman antitrust argument to be made in this. And I found it very interesting in the Pac-12's lawsuit. They talk a lot about antitrust. In the Mountain West response, they didn't really address it. And it's kind of why I expect, I talked to some legal experts. I said, is that unusual? And they said, that's what you do when you don't have a winning hand. Like, you don't want to argue that antitrust thing while you're trying to argue whether or not the lawsuit should move forward. They're saving that for another day. But I kind of expect this is going to end up somewhere in the middle. There'll be some kind of settlement. Lawyers will win, as they always do. Legal fees will be collected. But, I think the Pac-12, while this is going on, I would be really wise for them to go to the NCAA and be like, okay, we have 8 members. Who says they have to be all sports? Look at all these affiliate members that are playing all over the place. Yeah. Can they add an affiliate member in football? Can they add something else? And then Wayne Tinkle made a very interesting comment yesterday on my radio show. He said that there have been discussions with a school that would blow people's minds. Now, he's not the commissioner of the conference. He might just be recruiting, but it got me thinking about what does he mean and what school out there would blow people's minds, particularly from a basketball standpoint. Is it possible that St. Mary's and UConn or somebody else is talking about the Pac-12? I don't know, but I think there's a lot of tentacles to this that are still going to need to be settled.
When he said that, was he talking about basketball or a school that would play in all?
I had asked him, hey, what's the conference look like next year basketball wise? Like, is it a 4-bid conference? Is it a 3-bid conference with Gonzaga and San Diego State and Boise State coming in? And he said, well, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, it's not yet been fully constituted. And I'm going to tell you, there've been some conversations with some schools that would blow your mind. So it may be that they're talking partnership. It may be that they're talking about adding basketball only members. I do know that St. Mary's is sitting on the sideline right now, and it's eager to be checking into this game. And St. Mary's is watching, and I think kind of hoping that UNLV is the addition, because if UNLV comes in, I think it makes a lot of sense to add St. Mary's in a basketball perspective and then call it good if you're the Pac-12.
Is this all this stuff that's going on right now? Is it delaying the media rights deal, and where are we at with that?
I don't think it's delaying it, but I think there are probably some conversations, some extra conversations that have to be happening. I am told that, it got quiet during the Christmas, during the mid-December to the end of the year. They were really focused on, the conference was really focused on talking about what sports they're going to play in 2026. Are they going to play baseball? There's like 5 baseball members. Are the baseball members going to play somewhere else? Like, they were having those conversations, but the media rights updates that they're getting are 20,000 foot views, conversations with Octagon about things going well. I still think there's a lot of to be determined there. My target is still mid-March. I think on that Thursday when they're tipping off for the NCAA tournament, we should have some clarity on the media rights front. I think that's kind of where the target is right now.
But a notable absence at the Jimmy Rogers press conference was outgoing President Kirk Schulz. Did that surprise you? Didn't surprise me.
No, but it's still weird that the university president's not in the room. I mean, we talked about this. You've got to have alignment, right? You've got to have this congruency of vision from your regents or your trustees to your president, to your AD, to your football coach. That's how it works in major college athletics. If you don't have alignment, you have problems. Washington State is out of alignment. We know that because the regents told the president to find the money, dragged his feet, didn't tell the AD, football coach left. I mean, you see the problem that develops if you don't have alignment. So Schultz not being there tells me he didn't feel welcome, tells me he doesn't feel like he's part of the future. He probably didn't want to be a distraction and get asked a bunch of questions about why he didn't talk about the money with his AD. Given in his defense, he probably was just going, this is going to become the story if I show up. Yeah. But it just shows you there's no alignment, Puck. You should have had a president in the room. Certainly some of the trustees were there. The AD is there. Football coach is there. It really does make what happens next very important with that presidential hire. I talked to a couple of the regents. They are moving along with that. And they told me we've got to get this right. They are definitely going to hire somebody who gets athletics.
Well, yeah, because they've got to. I mean, because if they don't, then they're just going to be left behind. I mean, the president of Oregon State gets it, and they just need to be able to find someone that will advocate for sports there at that university.
And look, it impacts your enrollment. When you have a good football team and a good brand, enrollment goes up. You can study it. Watch the enrollment at Notre Dame, Ohio State, Boise State. The playoff teams will all see upticks in enrollment. And that's money. And it's out-of-state students in particular that pay the bills, and international students that really pay the bills. So Washington State needs more people to pick Washington State. And that starts with having a good football team.
Is there a storyline or something brewing right now with the power conferences and trying to seek more control over the NCAA tournament?
Yes, they are floating a proposal that the Power Four, which is just a concept, right? The Power Four schools, the conferences, we know who they are. They would like to take control of NCAA championships. They want the money. They want the ability to negotiate with television, and they want control. I talked to the Big Sky commissioner, Tom Wistersill, and he says, what more can they ask for? They have the authority right now. They have voices in the room right now. Like he hasn't seen the proposal, but he's like, what more do they need? Like, they already have everybody squeezed into an uncomfortable position. And I think it would be terrible. The NCAA tournament is the one thing the NCAA gets right. Don't give this to the playoff crew. Don't give this to the Power Four. Yeah. They will screw it up, and we know it.
Yeah, I just leave it alone. Stop adding teams to it. Can we? Can we get rid of the play-in games and just go 64 and just like it used to be?
Yeah.
God, it's not that hard of a concept. What do you make of Carson Beck making $4 million at Miami? Do you know, by the way, and I know it's been shot down, they say, well, it's actually $3 million. Okay. Even at $3 million, he will make more than the combined salaries this past season of Brock Purdy and Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Well, it's going to keep guys in college. They're going to take pay cuts. These guys that are getting drafted are taking pay cuts potentially. Right. So, Oregon State is bringing in Malik Murphy, the Duke transfer, and I reported he's getting $1.5 million in cash. Plus there's some incentives built into the deal that, if he sticks around and he has success, he gets to share in some of the sponsorship deals that with some of the partners. So there's a lot of money here. Quarterbacks are getting them 7 figures and above. Tight ends are getting $250,000. Cover corners are getting $250,000. Oregon State has $2 million tied up in 3 players, 2 tight ends and the quarterback. They're spending. Washington State needs to start spending, Puck.
What do you think Justin Herbert would get if he were still in college?
He's a $3 million guy. I mean, maybe there's a loyalty factor and they get him for 2, but Dylan Gabriel's taking a pay cut, going to the NFL. Yeah. Cam Ward's taking a pay cut going to the NFL. These guys are going to get rookie deals, and it's a cutthroat world, but they're out earning a lot of those rookie quarterbacks.
Hey, that house settlement start in July. They'll get $20.5 million to now spend. How much, like, on top of that, like, does that take away from the NIL? Does the NIL become even stronger? I mean, some of these programs, Texas, Ohio State, will be able to spend $20.5 million from the school, but then another, I don't know, $20-30 million from the NIL?
It's going to depend how evolved your NIL collective is, because some of the schools are going to want to merge that together with the university, and they're going to say, bring it all in-house. We want to control all the money. Others are going to go, no, we think we can do it fine on our own, and the NIL collective can spend on top of the $20.5 million and sit off to the side as a real difference maker. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Right now at Oregon State, I can tell you the plan for Oregon State is the school's going to have its own revenue sharing money, and the Damnation Collective is going to operate as an independent entity off to the side. We'll find out if, the schools of Oregon State's size are going to stay that way. I expect Oregon to have Division Street be separate as well. But there are some other schools, and, it's interesting. Like, I was looking at the collectives at, like, Kentucky. You would expect them to be highly evolved, but there's kind of like a basketball collective that fuels Kentucky. Then there's a football collective. There's all this splintering. I think you have real problems if you're organized that way. And, and because there's only so many donors of every school.
Right.
We're going to go tap those donors on the shoulder and say, hey, we can give you some sponsorship stuff. We can give you some additional value if you support our revenue sharing. But some of those donors are, just given to collectives right now. So what happens to the money? It's going to be hit and miss, and it'll be interesting to see what wins out. The market won't lie. Maybe it's better if you're all under one umbrella. I don't know.
It should just be they just should morph the NIL into the athletic fund.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Well, it gives you the ability to have a salary cap, because when you have the Wild West of, like, who knows who's behind the Boulevard Collective at SMU,
right?
It's Boss Hogg, right? We all know he's sitting there in a white cowboy hat and Roscoe, that whole thing's going on. And Phil Knight's over at Oregon behind Division Street. So, yeah, I mean, I think ultimately what happens is athletes collectively bargain, and we have a cap of some kind, and maybe that cap is $20.5 million.
Yeah. Real quick, Deion to Dallas. I mean, I know it's not college football, but it does affect college football because he would be leaving Boulder. What do you think? You think that's going to happen?
I think Deion is one of these guys that he's like a shark. He needs to keep swimming. he needs a new target. He needs something new and fresh. He needs something new to focus on. And, if he stays in one place too long, he sort of wilts. So I think Deion goes to the NFL. I think it's a new challenge. He needs to keep going. And his kid has never played for anybody but him. So not in the last, 10 or 12 years. So I think it'd be really an interesting position for Shedeur to be in if his dad's not the head coach. So I think Deion, he's the baddest club parent in America.
Yeah. Well, it'll be fascinating to watch and to see, where he goes next.
Not boring, but
no, it's not boring. Not boring at all. All right. What do you got? What do you got cooking right now up at johncanzano.com? What should we be looking forward to? And by the way, go there and sign up because, this guy is just kicking ass left and right. But what do you got in the pipeline?
I wrote today about the Pac-12's in Mountain West skirmish that's going on and what's really at stake. UNLV is wrapped in the middle of it. Monday mailbags up. Later in the week, obviously, I'm headed to Atlanta. I'll go where the stories are. I'm really interested in Chip Kelly and how happy he is. I'm going to try to get to Chip and talk with him a little bit about his time at Ohio State. But all of that, I'll go where the stories are, Puck, so you know that.
All right. You're the best, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, buddy. Thank you.
There he is, John Canzano. Follow him on Twitter, John Canzano BFT, Blue Sky John Canzano. And again, read all of his work up at johncanzano.com. Again, spend a few dollars to get all of his work. The Monday mailbag, the personal stories, the sports stories, the columns, the news gathering. He's just the best. He is the best, arguably the best reporter, columnist in the country. And he's with us every single week here at Puck Sports. All right. Before we wrap up the show here on the Daily Puck Drop with Hey, What the Puck. Hey, one last Mariner note. So they didn't get Roki Sasaki, huh? You don't say. Again, my New Year's resolution for the Mariners this year is laughter. It's just going to be laughter. I'm going to enjoy the baseball season. I'm going to hope they win. I am going to, for my blood pressure and my just outlook on life, I'm going to resist the urge. By the way, I have a right to change my mind. I'm going to resist the urge from getting angry anymore because I don't know what the point of getting angry anymore is with this team. They made a minor move. They acquired Miles, let's see, how do you say his name? Miles Mastrobuoni championship. Miles Mastrobuoni from the Chicago Cubs. In exchange for cash considerations. Nick Rapasso, the catcher that they got, they've designated him for assignment. Mastrobuoni, 29, appeared with the Rays in 22, Cubs from 23 to 24. He was designated for assignment back on January 9th by the Cubs. Left-hand hitting infielder, outfielder, appeared at all 5 positions, third base, second base, shortstop, right field, left field with the Cubs last season. He had a career-high 13 stolen bases there for the Cubs. In 118 career Major League games, he has hit .219 with 34 runs scored, 8 doubles, exactly 1 home run, 9 runs driven in, 16 stolen bases. So there you go. Laughter. Just use laughter. Laughter is the key to all of it. Just laughter. And that takes us now to Hey, What the Puck. Brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages do affect your residential or commercial property. Phone number 206-817-8917. Visit them online, restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Use laughter. I promise you this, as we start our Mariners coverage and our baseball coverage in about a month or so with with all of our regular guests. We'll continue to have the NFL guys throughout the Super Bowl, and then probably a week after, then we'll slowly transition and flip it over to baseball and all the familiar names, and Divish and Duquette and Brad Adam and Bill Kruger, and maybe a surprise few other guests. But I'm just going to use laughter this year, because being angry over this baseball team has done me no good. You know, if it's done me no good, it's done you no good. I don't know what other emotion besides humor and laughter there is with them, because we will just continue to say the same thing about all of them. And every time they tweet something out, every time they announce a move, smartasses like me will say something, and others. I'm to the point, I don't know how much more I have to give. I don't know. And what I mean by that doesn't mean I'm not watching and not paying attention and not rooting for them and all that. I don't know how much more emotions I have to give to be bothered by what they don't do anymore. And maybe that's now falling into the apathy, side of the pool. I'm not going to be apathetic about it, because I'm going to be watching it. I'm one of these idiots that will watch it or listen to it, and will go to a handful of games this season because I like baseball, and I'm just hoping that maybe someday that they'll wake up and realize, hey, we live in a beautiful city, we make lots of money, and if we invest more into the product, we'll be better. We've done a nice job of building our farm system up. Now we need to supplement that farm system by opening up our checkbooks. I'm no longer going to rant and rave about the ownership, even though I find myself going down that direction. They don't want to spend. That's it. They don't want to spend on your baseball team. They want to spend on everything else. They want to spend on the stadium being better. They want to spend on Hatback Grill. They want to spend on things that's going to make them money. And what I just don't get about it is, if they just spend on the product, on the players, that makes them more money because more people come out. But they just, every year is the same thing with them. We are sold a bill of promises and expectations from ownership, and then the front office is the conduit from the ownership. So we've got to, then we vent our frustration at DePoto and Hollander and all these guys and go, you keep moving the goalpost. And that's what they keep doing. They've moved it for 3 to 4 straight years. They've just keep moving it. I don't know how you're going to cope with the baseball season. I'm just telling you, the way I'm going to cope with it this year is by laughter. That's it. I'm just going to laugh my asses off. And I do have 2 asses, not just 1, 2. All right, that's it for the Daily Puck Drop. And Hey, What the Puck, again, brought to you by Restoration 1 of North Seattle. Please give them a call. If any damages affect your residential commercial property, look at the horrific things that are happening in California right now, and hopefully we have nothing like that up here. But if stuff does happen, to your commercial property or your personal property, these guys are the single best business around. And so give these guys a call, Restoration 1 of North Seattle. They're going to handle it all, top to bottom, all of it. 206-817-8917, and their website, restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Tell them Puck sent you. Proud sponsors of Puck Sports there from the get-go. All right, everything will be up later. We'll release it at 1 o'clock. When you go to YouTube, please subscribe there. Let's get those subscription numbers up. And of course, everything available on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. As I mentioned yesterday, I'll mention again, for the audio versions, I'm just posting the full show for audio moving forward. I'm not separating the interviews anymore. For video, select guests, I will separate the videos. So likely John will be separated today from the full show. But the full show will be up there as well. When you're at YouTube, please subscribe, and then we'll separate Canzano, and we'll probably separate most of the interviews, but just giving you a heads up so we don't throw everybody off. Reminder, dynamic duos with Graz and Gas available. Puck's Posse members Again, sign up. You get all the free content of Puck Sports and VIP content when you sign up at Puck Sports. Just $5 a month. Also there, another edition of our Speakeasy, a long, great sit-down conversation with Monty Kohler, longtime high school football coach at O'Day. It's a fabulous listen. It really is. Talking just about the culture of youth sports now and high school sports, the pressure parents put on people, the relationships that he has with his players, past and present, and then why does he keep doing it? Why, after 40-plus years, is he still the head football coach, athletic director at O'Day High School? And I mentioned this before, but starting the week after the Super Bowl for Puck's Posse members, so sign up today. Once a week, we'll be visiting with Dane Brugler, NFL draft expert from The Athletic, and getting a breakdown leading all the way up to the draft. Again, that will be VIP content for Puck's Posse members, okay? We'll talk to you guys tomorrow, another edition of the Daily Puck Drop. It's a Wednesday. We'll include a visit from Ryan Divish. We'll get his thoughts on the blockbuster moves the M's have made, and also a sit-down with Rob Staten, Seahawks, draftblog.com, to talk a little Seahawks. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, I promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!